This is Radio Free Pro Wrestling, your home for smart and stunning wrestling debates with lifelong wrestling fans Shawn and Ashlee. Let the debate begin.
Good Wednesday morning, and welcome to this week's episode of Radio Free Pro Wrestling. Welcome to this midweek episode. We are about 72 hours away from Clash at the Castle, and me and Ashlee are here to help you break it all down. Ashlee, are you ready to see CM Punk interfere in the world title match? And yet again, Drew McIntyre loses in England for the second year in a row.
Not particularly, but we know what's going to happen. So I'm ready for the other side of it.
Yeah, well, if you watched Monday Night Raw last night, you would have saw Judgment Day lose the match at the main event to land in from the side of the ring, and I got to thinking to myself, well, CM Punk's not a member of Judgment Day, so he's all clear to interfere in this match,
and he will, as long as I'm hoping that he's good. He's been out for a while, and we still haven't seen him since the Royal Rumble, but I'm hoping he's cleared because this match with Drew is something I think everyone's looking forward to.
Well, since we're already talking about this situation, why don't we just start our preview at Clash at the Castle, and we will slide down here and we'll literally talk about the match we just started for. The first match we'll talk about is Damian Priest versus Drew McIntyre for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Ashlee, can I sell you on the idea that Drew McIntyre may leave Glasgow, Scotland as the champion? What would it take you to believe this?
I don't know. It might take too much right now.
Okay, my thing is, I feel like Drew deserves this world title run, especially for the fact that he only got 5 minutes at WrestleMania, and they flipped this title over to Damian Priest. Damian Priest is a pretty good champion right now, but I still feel like Drew has some more to offer here. I kind of wanted to see Drew win this match, but I just know that CM Punk is in the wings. And I feel like CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre at SummerSlam is the way they're going to go. So get ready for that cult of personality to drop, and CM Punk makes a little trip over to Scotland to make sure Drew doesn't win a title.
Like I said, I'm waiting for him to come out the other side of it because I feel like his title reigns have sort of been cursed.
Very true. Well, let's go to the IC title match as Sami Zayn versus Chad Gable for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, reports are Gable has either re-signed with the WWE or is very close to re-signing with the WWE. So keep your eyes on this match. If Gable wins the title, 95% sure he's re-signed with the company. And I got a feeling that Zayn will drop the title to Gable at this pay-per-view. What do you think, Ashlee?
I think we could get that. There was a big push for Gable to win the IC title before Sammy took it off Gunther. So I could see them kind of pivoting, especially if he's re-signed, to be a nice little way to reward him for loyalty and staying with the company. And I think his heel work with this has been very good. So it would be nice to see him kind of maybe Sammy on the other side of it.
True. And I feel like after watching Raw on Monday night, Otis is almost ready to turn on to Gable and tell him, I'm over to your BS. I'm leaving our little Alpha Academy. And we want to see Otis being the first challenger for Chad Gable in his new IC title run.
Yeah, maybe you could move Sammy up after that too, We have some champions, some higher champions that are kind of in a lack of some challengers. So move Sammy up and move, especially putting that title on Chad Gable, be perfect. He needs something like that.
Very true. And I wouldn't mind seeing Damian Priest versus Sami Zayn for the World Heavyweight title. I feel like that would be a nice feud over the summer. Okay, so let's go to a match that I personally feel like may be the one where the home country person wins this title, as we have Bayley versus Piper Niven for the Women's WWE World Championship. Now, if you saw Friday Night SmackDown from this past week, Piper Niven cut one hell of a promo. Chelsea Green let it drop that she's looking forward to them being the champions. So we could possibly have that storyline where you have Piper win the title, but Chelsea will take credit for the victory. And I kind of want to see the storyline play out.
Honestly, that could be very interesting. Chelsea Green has gotten a lot of support that I've seen pretty recently, and fans seem to love this kind of gimmick she's been going with. So to kind of put her in something like the world title picture like this, kind of sliding her in off to the side while somebody else is the champion could be a very cool way to do it.
Okay, I said this is the most likely one for the home country person to win the match because I feel like Drew McIntyre is not going to win. And if we go to the tag team championships for the women, it's Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill versus Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark, and Aya Dawn and Alba Fire, or also known as Kaylee Ray. Now, if we had a longer run with Bianca and Cargill, I would say maybe you slide these titles over to Aya Dawn and Alba Fire, but it's too soon for the babyface champions to hand these titles over. There's a lot more story to go with Jade and Bianca, so I feel like this is an easy win for the champs. What do you think?
Agreed. The way these two have been pushed across the television and social media, I think they're going to be the champs for a little bit here.
Exactly, and I got a feeling coming out of this match, we're going to see them feud with Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton. I feel like that's going to be the next tag team they put together to face against the babyface of Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair.
That's good. Keep building these tag teams.
Exactly. You need to build this division. And I'm perfectly happy with the company going like, hey, we only have so many women tag teams on both Raw and SmackDown. The champs can travel to either show, enabling you to have more matches of different opponents. Exactly. Okay, so there's one last match we can preview because there's only 5 matches announced so far. And honestly, if they keep this as a 5-match card, I would be perfectly happy. It's AJ Styles versus Cody Rhodes for the championship in an I Quit match. A rematch from the one they had last month in Leon France. I got a feeling this one is just going to be as good as one in Leon France. But I feel like we're going to get the same result. AJ Styles is going to come up a bit short, and Cody carries on with the championship.
Yeah, I agree. But it's AJ Styles and it's Cody, so you know it's going to be a fantastic match.
Actually, you could literally blindfold these two guys, put them in a ring, and they couldn't have a bad match.
Exactly. I'm hoping they'll kind of have like a similar. We want to see like a similar crowd reaction, so hopefully we can get like people into it, like you said, like in France. But otherwise, like I'm pretty excited to see AJ Styles kind of having some big matches. If truth is like Bryan Danielson, he may be leaving wrestling soon. So,
well, I gotta say that was one great fake retirement a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown. he almost had me, and I was like, oh, and I was like, oh, he's doing the Mark Henry fake retirement. But hey, he pulled it off just as good as Mark Henry. And hey, EOC and AJ Styles, we're back to having them being a major heel faction. The Bullet Club and WWE are back on top. So let's have a summer of the Bullet Club and WWE.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why they haven't been featured a little more. Maybe we're coming off some injuries or something. But put him in there in a top spot. We need some more faction feuds.
Exactly. Before AJ goes, put these guys babyface and let them face off against Solo in a bloodline for a minute. That would be fun too. Yeah. Well, that has been your WWE Clash at the Castle preview here on Radio Free Professional Wrestling. Let's go over to the Control Center to catch you up on the weekend wrestling news.
This is your Radio Free Pro Wrestling Control Center. All the wrestling news you need to know.
Okay, Ashley, my first story for you might be a little disappointing because Dax Harwood went to Twitter to tell his fans he will be out for a while as he recovers from a lower back injury. Now, this injury first took place back at AEW Dynasty during that Team Elite versus Team AEW match. He did a pile driver on Matt Jackson and injured his lower back. He thought he could work through it and hopefully had it heal over time. Unfortunately, this past Saturday night on Collision, they had a great match with Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta. After that match, he goes to the back and has it checked out, and he had a hematoma on his back the size of the football, as it was reported. Actually,
yeah,
go ahead.
Absolutely, because he posted a picture of it, and it is a pretty disturbing photo on his Twitter. And like you were about to say, like all the best to him. I hope he has a speedy recovery. To work with something that looks like that for a few months it's crazy. I have no idea how he did it.
I don't either. It's just that old school mentality that you just keep on working no matter what kind of injury you have. Now, I'm just happy that he's going to have this time away to get himself back, because this could have eventually shortened his career. And he didn't realize that until Dr. Sampson got back to him in the back on Saturday night and tell him, hey, we need to take care of this, or it could shorten your career.
Yeah, and absolutely. Like, health is always going to come first. So I hope he takes as much time as he needs. They're not struggling right now. Like, they can take a few weeks off. Let's worry about, just getting him healthy.
Exactly. And, I kind of want to see a Cash Wheeler single run to see what he can do as a single competitor, because we've seen a Dax Harwood single run a year ago, and that was freaking amazing. I feel like Cash Wheeler can do just as good.
Yeah, absolutely. We very rarely see a Cash Wheeler singles match. Give him a little bit of a spotlight while Dax is out until he can return.
Okay, so my second news story for you, Ashlee. Remember last week where we were talking about TNA didn't have anything planned past August 2nd and 3rd for tapings? They have come out with a summer series of events leading to Bound for Glory, and it's heavily hinted Bound for Glory 2024 will be in London, England. Ashlee, is that not the best place for TNA to have a Bound for Glory in 2024? I mean, London is the home base of TNA wrestling, basically.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is kind of, if we were waiting for this announcement, for the location announcement, I think it might be well worth the wait. UK, everybody's getting some good shows over there this year.
Well, they do have a TNA Plus exclusive coming up June 14th in Chicago against all odds to kick off this series of events as they travel to Florida, over to Pennsylvania, to the ECW Arena at 2300. So TNA looks like they got plans through October. So all of us TNA fans can breathe a sigh of relief. Hopefully this calms down the fears that the company was going to be sold or they were going to shutter, because there were some rumors through the last couple of weeks that since there wasn't anything planned past August 2nd and 3rd, what was going on with the company?
Yeah, I think everybody's been really concerned with the kind of switch over in the higher ups over at TNA. So hopefully they can kind of work it out in a pace that, it's profitable for them, but it's still a good product for the TNA fans who have been following since Scott D'Amore and his crew.
Exactly. That's what we want. We want good professional wrestling and a home for these wrestlers to perform. So on to my third news story of the week. I've been wondering why we haven't seen GD Dolan for a while. She hasn't wrestled since March 12th, where she suffered a defeat by DQ to Ariana Grace. Fightful is reporting that she is out with a serious knee injury. Also, it's been reported that her storyline with Ariana Grace has been pulled, probably because of this injury. And it's disappointing for me because I thought those two ladies had a great chemistry. And if you want a dysfunctional tag team where you had them face against Bianca and Cario, here's another group that could have done it. We just want to wish all the best to GD Dolan, and hopefully she gets back soon.
Yeah, a few more big names added into this ever-growing list we have here of injured professional wrestlers this year.
Well, actually, I got one more to add for you, because the other story I have for you is also out with a knee injury. She went to her YouTube channel to post some video of post-surgery where she was in her hospital bed recovering. She's going to be out for a while, and Damage Control is going to be without Asuka. That is a very big loss for us as wrestling fans, because Asuka is one of the best women performers in the world. And we just want to wish the best to Asuka.
Yeah, it's almost getting to be unfair how many people are going to be out for a while now. We've lost some big names, and especially somebody like Asuka in everything that was going on, kind of like before the injury with Bayley and Damage Control and everything like that. It sucks to lose her kind of like right in the midst of them still being so big and over and everything.
Exactly, actually, because Damage Control was being like the main heel faction for the women over on Raw. They were running roughshod through that division. So I just hope Asuka can get back soon. So my next news story for you is Ricochet is likely leaving the WWE. He was written off this past Monday night on Raw as Braun Breaker basically redid the spear into the side of the trailer that Kevin Nash did on Rey Mysterio back from WCW. And we saw Braun Breaker basically power slam Ricochet into a car windshield, writing him off from the company. Now, Dave Master has reported that it hasn't been official yet. There's nothing signed, but WWE believes it's 95% sure that he's leaving the company. We just want to wish Ricochet happiness wherever he lands. And we'll talk about this in the 76 questions where we could possibly see him.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, no matter where he goes, as long as he's happy, that's the only thing that matters. But WWE has been waiting to sign contracts and everything, so who knows like what offers may come that may kind of persuade him otherwise.
Exactly. This could be just a example of somebody using the possibility of their contract ending up to play two sides against each other to get the best deal possible. And everybody does it in professional sports, and it's perfectly fine.
And you should do it.
and you should do it. It's a smart thing to do.
Yep.
Okay, one last news story to get us on the road here on this midweek show. As we see Hikuleo wrapping up in New Japan Pro Wrestling at Dominion, and Cassidy Hines of BodySlam.net is reporting that this NJPW star is most likely heading to the WWE to join the Bloodline stable. As we already seen the Girls of Destiny slide over to WWE and reinforce Solo in his new version of the Bloodline. And why not add Hikuleo, have a tall enforcer in this group? And I feel like this is a perfect move for this gentleman. What do you think, Ashlee?
Yeah, I agree. As we were kind of saying before we came on the air, I think like having him in a faction or something is kind of going to be the best for him. It makes perfect sense for like everything that's going on kind of with this new variation of the Bloodline and the continuation of it and everything. I think it's a perfect move for Hikuleo.
Exactly. And we're building up to the old Bloodline versus the new Bloodline as we head to SummerSlam and into the fall to probably Survivor Series. And this might be the War Game match in Survivor Series. You have the new Bloodline versus the old Bloodline.
I could definitely see them going that route. It'll be very interesting to see where they go, though, in the next few weeks.
Exactly. We'll just have to sit here and see what comes next. That has been your Control Center here for Wednesday, June 12th, 2024, here on Radio Free Professional Wrestling. So let's do our stunning 6 questions of the week.
Time to ring the bell as Shawn and Ashlee debate 6 stunning questions from the week of wrestling. All the whys. And what the hell was that?
Well, Ashlee, what the hell is that? Is the first question of the week. As New Japan Pro Wrestling has put out a 10-point plan on how to improve the product and the fan experience. And I'm pretty sure that you are a strong supporter of point number 3, reduce the amount of interference, quote unquote, the House of Torture rule. Ashlee, do you have any comments?
Yes, I just want to thank the New Japan higher ups for finally hearing me and finally taking this into consideration. After yet another week of watching some more Best of Super Juniors along with Dominion this weekend, I had to watch a bunch of House of Torture interference. So hopefully this can get curbed very soon.
Okay, so point number 1 is discover talent and develop. They want to find the best young 20 and 25-year-old professional wrestlers in Japan and keep them in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Very smart. You do want to develop a younger face and let them go for a surgeon, bring them back to New Japan Pro Wrestling to replace the likes of Okada, because that's how Okada became Okada. You send him over to Mexico. I mean, granted, you did send him to TNA. He became the sidekick. He became like the Green Hornet ripoff there, Kato.
Yeah.
This is cleared up from our memory, but okay. Point number 1. Number 2, they're talking about elevating the value of title belts, and they recognize that maybe having 13 titles might be just one too many. Hi, AEW, take notice of this, please.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Like, we just added like the Global Championship not too long ago, and that kind of felt a little bit unnecessary. Cool title design, though, for sure, but didn't feel like it was like something they needed. I definitely can agree with that.
Okay, so they also stated in this point that the strong titles will be only defended on the U.S. shows, and they unified the strong tag team titles into the New Japan Pro titles. So they got that unified, and they said this process could likely take 12 to 18 months.
That's good, and that's something that Tony Khan should also take hint with, because he has 2 wrestling promotions, and he is often crossing the belts for no reason.
Okay, so we're moving on to point number 5. Is strengthening ties with Stardom, was me and you both agree is a good point, simply because you freaking own a company. Why don't you use this company?
It would make too much sense, I guess. They get great reactions too when they have the female matches. So I'm not. It's strange to me that they don't see the reactions and capitalize on this sooner.
That's what I thought too. It's like, come on, you seen Julia for the last 2 years have like one of the best runs of any female wrestler on the planet, only to realize that a little too late, and now she's going over to the WWE. Okay, so we're at point 6. They want to strengthen their ties with AEW, and I'm actually, how much more can you strengthen these ties? Because I feel like New Japan Pro Wrestling has basically become the farm system for AEW.
I kind of see that take a lot, but I was reading the comments that the New Japan higher ups were making, and they absolutely don't feel that way, or they're putting on a maybe a front. I don't know. You know, you never know when you're reading these interviews, but like I said before, like kind of harping back even to point 1 is like finding this young talent and discovering this new young talent to sort of replace the likes of Okada. And, you know, we're assuming guys like Naito and Tanahashi have kind of like a limited amount of time left, but like they have a crop of young guys that like we need to start like pushing to the top, like right now, like boom, boom, like let's go, let's move these guys. And I don't want them to be overlooked because we're in such a wave of change in New Japan. But there's a lot of things that are affecting people leaving New Japan. It's not just, I think, being enticed by AEW.
Okay, so we're moving on to point number 9 of this 10-point plan, and it's basically saying we're going to do better with personal information, and we're getting rid of the concept of keeping personal information on thumb drives in the year of our Lord 2024.
Yeah, this is kind of good to see. These kinds, like the everybody's personal information being on a flash drive was kind of an insane story. But like a lot of these things, like improving the live fan experience, improving the New Japan, these are things that I've seen people kind of ask for quite some time, honestly. So it's nice to see there's actually putting like an emphasis on these points. And especially people put a lot of faith in companies when you put out your credit card information, when you put out your personal information. Everyone is trying to beware of the bad ones or the ones that are going to target you. And this looked like a massive like failure of like just data protection right there on New Japan's part.
Very true. And I was like, I remember reading that story and I'm like, do I really want to continue my New Japan World Service, or do I want to go ahead and just cancel it for a while? Now,
I was like, is my information on a floppy disk somewhere?
You know, that thought crossed my mind for a couple of days. I'm going to like, now I will tell you, I still got my New Japan World Service. So I'll tell you, I didn't cancel it, but I am happy they're trying to improve the on-demand service, because there's some things that we all know about New Japan World that it is kind of clunky. It's kind of wonky how that works. If they can stream like it and make it more like how Peacock is, or the old WWE network system, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, definitely some improvements to be made, especially kind of like on the, I know it's been available on like Amazon devices for a while, but like on Android and Roku, it's only been available for a few months. So I know they're still trying to improve features there. So hopefully they can get some good like user interface work on there. I think that could be a little clunky at times, but it's nice to see some of these, like I said, like long time things be like addressed in this.
Very true. So let's move on to my second question, this Denny's second question. As I'm going to ask you, if Ricochet leaves WWE, where do you see him ending up, and what is the ceiling for Ricochet out of WWE?
I know everybody is kind of already writing him to AEW. It would be cool. AEW has a stacked roster. There'd be plenty of people he has a history with and plenty of new people for him to face. But genuinely, just speaking about them, Ricochet in New Japan as a full-time competitor in New Japan could be really great. He's still young, on the younger side. He could work with the young people that I was mentioning before, Kosei Fujita, Ren Narita, all of these guys I want to bring up to that level. I think he could give them those kinds of matches to bring like the eyes to them in a way that I kind of feel like they might be struggling to do a little bit.
Okay, so I know a lot of people say, ooh, AEW, and I go like, Yeah, but what does Ricochet bring that you don't already have with Star Strickland or Will Ospreay or Okada? There's so many people on the roster in AEW, and they have so little TV time. I feel like he needs to do like Ali and just pick and choose where he wants to go independently. And eventually, if he wants to go to AEW, perfectly fine. Yes, but why not spend a year going around the world like Ali and just making independent dates and making money that way?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly worked out for guys like Matt Cardona and Ali, so it could certainly work for Ricochet. Especially like imagine him popping into something like TNA and having matches with Chris Bay, or popping into like New Japan and having matches, like have a match with Leo Rush in New Japan. Like that would be insane. I'd love to see that.
Exactly, or he can do that at New Japan Strong and have it over
Yeah,
there at LA
absolutely.
Dojo. Like, oh, that'd be great. Okay, so we're moving on to standing question number 3 this week, and I like to call this Tony Khan's crazy tweet of the week. As I woke up one morning and I saw Tony Khan basically say, "I booked AEW for the sickos," and I'm thinking he's paraphrasing sicko as the hardcore fans. And I just want to go, Ashlee, does he realize he needs to book for more than just the hardcore fans of AEW?
Um, I have to live in a cognitive dissonance because I do realize he does, but I'm also glad he doesn't sometimes, I understand like wanting to have a bigger appeal, but I also understand that like what appeals to Tony Khan usually appeals to me. We have a similar taste. So it's tough. I would like to see him. I think he's got to like bring in somebody to help him carry this load though, for sure.
I know. I feel like once a month we just go like, Tony, put the phone down, delete the Twitter app. It'll be okay. It'll be fine. Everyone says AEW still says about you having to do Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, this one in the grand scheme of things that Tony Khan tweets is nothing, I would say. This is, I think, just him being either, if it was, would you say, like 4 a.m, he tweeted that out? Like, he certainly needs to go to bed instead of tweeting at 4 a.m. But I feel like he was just paraphrasing. It seemed more like a Tommy Boy reference, but I don't know. Maybe he just really thinks that way. I don't know. I just took it as like more of a joke kind of tweet than a.
I agree with you, Ashley. I feel like on the scale of crazy Tony Khan tweets that we've seen so far in 2024, this may be a 1 or a 2.
Yeah, this is like I said, this is almost nothing. I mean, even the stuff he tweeted about dirty practices or something, I thought was like, whoa, like even that was like more than.
Exactly. So we'll move on to my 4th stunning question of the week. As Kevin Kelly was doing a virtual signing this past week, and he gave his side of the story of him being let go by the AEW. And in his side of the story, he's saying was Ian Riccaboni wasn't willing to do the travel required for Collision, and Riccaboni suggested, hey, hire Kevin Kelly. Kevin Kelly comes over, he does some Collision dates, he goes, does G1 tournament, and he comes back, he looks at his Discord account, thinking like, let me see what people are saying about the G1, and he realized Riccaboni was saying all this stuff on a New Japan World Discord. And I'm going like, first of all, that's the heart of the hardcore on Discord. And this all leads into his series of tweets that eventually leads him to get let go by said company. Ashlee, how do you feel about all this?
I feel like this whole situation is very weird. Kevin Kelly seems to imply that he was hired specifically to do Collision, but said Ian Riccaboni, like if you knew you were going to work that day, like you signed on for it. I would be a bit confused as to how he wouldn't have known what day he would have been working unless they didn't have him set for anything as of yet. I feel like the way he went about things by going on Twitter and complaining about Ian Riccaboni specifically did not do him any favors with any of the fans or any of the higher ups that saw it, because I think Ian Riccaboni is pretty well loved, especially by Ring of Honor and AEW fans who got to see him come in and host Collision and stuff on commentary. He has said a lot of questionable other things on social media that have, I think, certainly pushed another portion of fans away. And the weird part is he's not necessarily wrong in all of his criticisms about like New Japan and kind of like his rants. Like he's made some very level-headed observational things that I think a lot of people have sort of said about New Japan and ways to improve it and things like that. But I think how standoffish he's been has not won him any favor with people that like when you're trying to speak to people, you need honey, not you got to be a little sweeter than that.
Exactly. I honestly feel like this was him going scorched earth on AEW. He was so fed up in his mind that he didn't want to be in AEW anymore. So he's like, what can I do to get out of the situation? And he chose scorched earth.
I mean, I would hope you would just go say, hey man, I don't want to be here. And then, and then you work something out. I mean, I don't know if that wasn't a possibility or they weren't going to entertain that. But like I said, like it's not even like if he was unhappy, like putting you're unhappy out there is like one thing, but I think like specifically targeting somebody else for kind of like it seems like it was like in response to a lot of criticism he was getting, because when he first joined AEW, there was a lot of criticism about his commentary, about how he sounded, and it's like some fair criticisms, some are just people being too harsh and overly judgmental, but I think it was like a lot of that pressure and maybe just being unhappy that caused him to kind of overload and blow his, like I don't know.
Well, I think the lesson we can take away from here is if you have an issue with said employer, it's more beneficial for yourself to take it behind the scenes instead of whipping out your phone, going on Twitter, and just pouring out your hearts. We'll say it that way.
Yeah. And it sucks because Kevin Kelly he's been in WWE, he's been in New Japan, he's been in AEW, he's been all over. He has a lot of like credentials and a great resume. And I think any company looking to bring him in is going to be a little hesitant seeing how he reacted to like coworkers and stuff online.
Exactly. I'm going to post this story into the show notes for the video and the audio version of this podcast so you can read it for yourself. It's a very interesting read, I'll tell you that much. On to my next question. Stunning question number 5 this week. If you haven't seen week 1 of Vice's TV 4-part series on Who Killed WCW, go out and check it. You can check it out on their YouTube channel. I just watched it this past weekend. And actually, my question for you, who in your opinion killed, quote unquote, WCW?
Oh, I know there's a lot of itching to put the blame on one guy. And we mostly know who that one guy is who gets the blame for it. And I will put a lot of the blame on him for sure. But I think it was more than just him. There was too many poor decisions made around what they thought was an infallible product, or like just thinking like they could do no wrong. And then also I know it like for some reason gets overlooked, but when the channel you're on no longer wants to support or play the product that you make, you're not going to have a product. It's not going to matter how good or bad it is.
Honestly, I feel like the answer we're going to get is D. It's all the above. It's a little bit of Eric Bischoff. It's a little bit of the AOL Time Warner merger. It's a little bit of Hogan playing that creative control card, brother. If you go, perfect example. If you ever seen Starrcade 1997, Sting versus Hogan, to me personally, that is the start of the slide of WCW, because they had 18 months of great booking going into that match. They had it set up for babyface Sting to reclaim the title from Hogan, finish the NWO being strong, them going away to regroup, and we come into that event that day, and the finish gets changed, and they go to the ring thinking, it's going to be a fast count by Nick Patrick, and he doesn't do a fast count, and you're sitting there at the end of the match going like, what's going on? And this is when we decided to debut Bret Hart. We just got him for WWE like right after the Montreal Screwjob, and we're gonna make him a special guest referee in the match before with him versus Eric Bischoff versus Larry Zbyszko, and Zbyszko wins that match to get Nitro back to WCW. And here we are. We got Bret Hart off of the hottest angle in professional wrestling history on your TV, and this is the role you decide for Bret Hart is this pay-per-view. I would just say to him for Monday Nitro and let him have a live night and be the very first thing on that Nitro.
Yeah, I mean, that would have been a perfect thing to do. Like you said, like Bret Hart's just coming out of not only just like one of the hottest feuds with like Steve Austin, but like the like real life, like behind the scenes stuff that certainly blew everything up with like Vince and everything. Having him come back and that's their biggest sin to me, wasting Bret Hart the way they did. But like you said, it's like everybody had a hand, like Hogan not wanting to back down. They realized they struck gold with NWO, and instead of ever giving it any time to breathe, they rode it till the wheels came off. Like they made some of the most absurd booking decisions I think any of us have ever seen. And it just felt like at one point they knew they were done, and they were just like, well, it's over anyway, so might as well.
Honestly, if you watched any of WCW from late 2000 to the end, I'm pretty much sure they understood the Titanic was sinking, and they were just the band playing the song on the ship.
It's a pretty good comparison. It was definitely a very weird time for the last like 2 years or whatever, year and a half.
Yes, it was. And no, actually, I'm not going to ask you to do a secondary podcast covering that said time period.
Thank you. Do you imagine all the wrestling we watch and then having to throw in some late 90s, early 2000s WCW in there?
I don't know if I'm ready for that, Ashley. I mean,
your soul left your body.
I remember a young college Shawn enjoying WCW, and now looking back on the WWE network at that time period from 2000 to 2001, I'm going like, Shawn, what were you doing back then? I know you don't drink. I know you don't smoke. What were you doing?
It is so weird to look back at wrestling from that time because it was so popular and it was so big, but I feel like it's so much better now.
It's all that saying where it's like you see the past in rose-colored glasses. And I feel like I did that with WCW until I watched it over again about 2 years ago.
It is rough. Because I mean, there's still time. Like I go back and watch like old stuff all the time too, and there's stuff I know is bad, but I still watch it. Yeah, mid-90s WWF, it's garbage, but I watch it every once in a while because I grew up with it and it's nostalgic.
Well, we're moving on to the sixth and final setting question this week. As one of the big matches that everybody's putting out there as a possible next match when Ricochet becomes a free agent, is a rematch with him versus Will Ospreay, because we all remember that classic match they had in Corrigan Hall a few years ago, where it was quote unquote the best wrestling match, or as Jim Cornette would say, one of the best prearranged acrobatic matches, not really professional wrestling. Potato.
I mean, Will Ospreay has certainly been pushing for that rematch. It's kind of another reason why I think like Ricochet could do well if he went to like New Japan after, because there wouldn't be anything stopping him from working with like Will Ospreay or anybody on the AEW roster, really. I think with this run that Will Ospreay has been on lately, I'd love to see him versus anybody, and especially somebody like a Ricochet, who I think will feel like he has something to prove.
Yes, but my question to you, if you send him over to AEW, Will Ospreay is your international champion. Do you have Ricochet lose his debut match in AEW? Do you have Will Ospreay lose the international title before he heads to the world title? There's a lot of things you got to think about before you even put this match on paper.
Yeah, and sometimes like I think that is one thing that like affects like booking decisions too much, and somebody becomes like the next big thing and we just automatically put a title on him, or somebody's coming in and we automatically want to put him in a title match. That's not something we need to do as soon as somebody comes into a company, because then you're either set with the obvious thing of a champion who's not ready to lose his belt is going to lose his belt, or somebody who doesn't really need this belt coming in is going to get this belt, and then what do you do with it from there? Like you said, I think maybe having him kind of shop around a little bit and go maybe to Prestige, maybe over to, like something like DPW. DPW has been having some really good matches too. He could certainly benefit, and I'm glad that like we're not going to have the non-competes are gone now, right? So he should be able to just realistically pop up wherever, whenever.
Exactly, because if he doesn't re-sign with WWE, his contract runs out. And once this contract runs out, there is no non-complete clause here because the contract is over. It's not a release by the company, so there's no 90 days. So, me personally, you save this match to Wrestle Dream in October, then maybe you do have Will Ospreay drop that international title. Then you have this match, and like you said, Wrestle Dream matches. here you go.
Yeah, that would be perfect, And if AEW does end up bringing in Ricochet, you don't have to have him go right after Will Ospreay. Especially with something like the International Championship, I would like to see him kind of like build toward it.
True, there's a lot of people. Daniel Garcia, Sammy Guevara, Scorpio Sky. Oh, remember Scorpio Sky? I know there's been promo practices for Scorpio Sky, but I do believe this guy exists and he does wrestle, so we need to see him back on TV.
Yeah, I don't. I have no idea. They air a vignette for him like once every 3 months, and then I think forget about him.
Actually, I see these and I go like, am I dreaming or am I awake and actually watching TV? That's what I'm into right now, Scorpio Sky. Okay, that's been our 76 questions on this week's episode of Radio Free Professional Wrestling. It's time for me and Ashlee's favorite segment of the week. It's our top 5 matches.
It's Shawn and Ashlee's top 5 matches of the week. As they count down their 5 favourite matches from the past week, did your favourite match make the cut?
Okay, Ashlee, my number 5 match was a match that was happening very late. It was a last-minute match added to Collision, and for me personally, it was a great match, as it was Daniel Garcia versus Tate Mayfair from Progress Wrestling. And Daniel Garcia got a good victory over Tate Mayfair. Tate Mayfair made a nice introduction to North American TV and being his dick heel self that Daniel Garcia carried today. It was a fine match.
Yeah, no, it was very good. I think like a nice solid debut in AEW from Tate Mayfair's. And it was funny. I saw him on social media after he was like, "Oh, Daniel Garcia in AEW just taking advantage of my jet lag."
Well, Tate is a good talent. He is the greatest professional wrestler walking God's green earth. And if Progress is listening, I still believe that the London Screwdoll did happen and he should never lost to Eddie Dennis. But David, if you're listening, I still haven't let that go. Ashlee, what is your number 5 match of the week?
All right. So number 5, from Dominion, we got Shingo Takagi taking on Hinare. You want to see some big guys smacking the hell out of each other? This is the match for you this week. Hinare, with a lot of like vocal fan support with a usually very pro Takagi crowd. I think since that cage match at Wrestle Kingdom, I think Hinare has kind of only upped his stock and the fans are very invested in him. And I see a rematch for this coming up, but these two guys just beat the hell out of each other.
Hinare is one of my favorite professional wrestlers out of NJPW Wrestling. I do want to go see Dominion because you highly recommended it. I've been really busy every part of this week getting ready for a corporate visit for my day job. So Dominion is on my list, and I want to check this match out as soon as we get done here. My number 4 match of the week. I got to say, it's going to be a while for us to see FTR back together, but this match they had on Saturday night with Collision against Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli was one hell of a send-off for FTR and one that's hardwood.
Yeah. I will be talking about this in a bit, but a great match. And now knowing the pain he was dealing with, to know that he still put on a match that good is so damn impressive.
And yes, it was a 20-minute draw. And then we had a cutter come down and go like, no, guys, this contract says 20 minutes. EVP's telling me 20 minutes. No, you're not going to get 5 minutes. Then they just take turns beating the head out of the cutter. So it was a great time for everybody.
Yeah.
Ashlee, what is your number 4 match of the week?
All right. So number 4, I went with from Collision, Toni Storm and Lady Frost. I thought they had a really good match. I think I've seen polarizing takes on Toni Storm's in-ring work since the character shift. Nothing about the character has really been a bad take, but I've seen people say that like the character work like affects her like work rate. But I thought this was a very good match, and I think Lady Frost is somebody who's I want to see pushed in a bigger prominent spot in the women's division. I believe they quietly signed her last year, if I'm not mistaken. She's been used in Ring of Honor. We've seen her on AEW TV, but she's athletic as hell. She looks good in the ring. I think she wins the crowd over every time she's out there. So I would love to see her kind of get a bigger prominent spot, especially with a showing like that against the champion.
True. And oh, by the way, you have another title, the TBS title. Can you see Mercedes Moné versus Lady Frost? I think that'd be a great match to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with that run Mercedes has been on. Lady Frost, like I said, is quietly kind of like a talent that's almost like Queen Aminata, like they have her. She's very good. When we release her out there, she has a great match, but we kind of keep her under wraps for some reason.
Well, it's the problem we have with such a big roster and only having 5 hours of TV every week. And maybe the answer is another couple hours on both Collision and Dynamite. I just put that into the world. If you don't like that, hit me up on Twitter at RPW Shawn, and you can tell me why that's not a good idea. Okay, so my number 3 match of the week. I'm going back to this past Monday Night Raw. It's Braun Breaker versus Ilya Dragunov. Yet another classic in their series of matches. We saw it in NXT. It was just as good as this Monday Night Raw one. And it was nice to see Braun Breaker go about 16 minutes and not have a squash match on Raw. And this Raw crowd finally got to see what Braun Breaker can do with a talent that could go longer. And even though Dragunov lost this match, Dragunov is at a point where he can take these L's and still get over with any crowd he gets in front of, because the guy is just a dynamic talent.
Yeah, and it's nice to see like Braun Breaker. Like when Braun Breaker first kind of like came on the scene, everybody was like, "Oh my god, like Braun Breaker, the next big thing. Like he's going to be the next face of the company." And then like at some point last year, it felt like there was like a really big drop off in the way the fans felt about him and like sort of like his appearances and everything like that. But it feels like there's like this like renewed like trust in him and what he's capable of doing. And sometimes like that's what you need to do as their boss. Like you have to you got to give them a direction and trust that they can carry it. You know, you can't like micromanage every single thing about their character, their promo. You got to let them go out there and do it. And he seems like he's got like all of the tools. They just got to like, so working with somebody like Ilya is perfect. Like keep this going for a little bit, have them feud for a while.
Exactly. I feel like that would be a great idea. And I feel like you just feed him good veteran talent that is the upper mid card that you know can take an L and still get over with a crowd. And you can build this guy up to eventually that world title level. But I would love to see him go to the IC title first, because I feel like if you try to hotshot him to the world title, you just repeat your mistakes you had with Roman Reigns in back in the day, where you try to push him too fast, too soon. And you have that reject from the fans. They're going like, no, we're not ready for this.
Yeah, I think their patience with things in like certain storylines and working with certain people is definitely gotten a little bit better. Like they don't seem to like just, all right, it didn't work this one time, let's get rid of it now. You know, like you gotta kind of work around how the crowd reacts and how they're received and stuff like that, and just tailor it. And Braun Breaker is a guy who I think has done perfect.
Exactly. So, Ashley, we're going to your number 3 match of the week. And when I saw this, my eyes just lit up, because who is it?
It's another New Japan Dominion match. This is Jeff Cobb, the television champion, taking on Tomohiro Ishii. Yet another match of guys beating the hell out of each other. Big boys just slapping the hell out of each other. And you like Tomohiro Ishii, obviously kind of being like an older guy, a veteran, and not really for me known for like athletic ability. Like the ending of this match, the last like 4 to 5 minutes is like just an insane, impressive amount of athletic talent from both of these guys.
Okay, correct me if I'm wrong. Did I see Ishii do a freaking Frankensteiner?
You did.
Like, I want to go back and watch this match again, because he pulls off a freaking Frankensteiner. I was like, dear Lord.
Yeah, no, it's so good. And like anytime I talk about Jeff Cobb, he is an athletic freak of nature. He is just a joy to watch. Like I'm thankful he got into professional wrestling, because like that dude could be like playing like literally like any sport where they need big guys. Like this guy could be literally doing anything. The amount of talent he has in a wrestling ring is scary.
It is, and it's like just like Braun Breaker. You go like, here's another young talent that they're grooming in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I'm like, if he's not fully signed with New Japan, AEW, you might want to sign this guy too, because this guy could be a world champion for somebody in the near future.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. To watch that man do a standing moonsault and stuff is some of the craziest stuff I think you'll see in pro wrestling, because just his sheer size, it looks impossible.
Exactly. So we're moving to my number 2 match of the week. And I got a feeling that you're going to have this on your well, it's Roderick Strong versus Rose for the AEW World Title match from last week's episode of Dynamite. A very fine and fun match. And yes, Switzerland had another successful title defense as we move forward to Forbidden Door.
Yeah, honestly, it's my number 2 as well. And I think we all knew, like, going into it, like, Roddy Strong wasn't winning the championship, but we knew it was going to be a good match. And again, like, I feel like Roddy Strong is like one of those guys that's like very quiet, and then he just goes out and has like a very good match, and everyone's like, "Oh wow, holy shit!" I kind of forgot how good Roddy Strong is, and like, why? He's been on a great run. He was a great run with the international championship, and this match with Swerve is another example. The double stomp he took from the apron to the floor looked brutal.
Yes, I gotta say it did look real. This was a fine world title match for TV, and I know I was that guy a couple weeks ago when Kimmy was on here going like, I'm not really sure about Switzerland's title run so far. Allow me to say I was wrong. It's a fine title run, and I have enjoyed a weekly world title defense by Switzerland. So, past Shawn, you were wrong. Forget that. We'll just wipe it from everybody's memory.
No, I think honestly, I think a lot of people had that same feeling when Swerve first won the title. I think there was a couple things to it, though. I don't think they used him like right off the bat. Like, I felt like they should have been like pushing him, and we kind of like waited a week or two, which was weird. But it was also like in the wake of like turning him from like heel to babyface still, and like kind of like sort of building that kind of momentum. But I think they're doing a pretty good job now. I think they've kind of listened to some of the criticisms people have had over the past like 2 months or so, month and a half.
Probably. I think you're right about it, Ashley. My number 1 match of the week came from Sunday night, and it was NXT Battleground. It's the women's NXT title match. Roxanne Perez, NXT Women's Champion, versus Jordan Grace, TNA Knockout Champion. First of all, this match happening was kind of cool. And through this match, Jordan Grace loses one of her earrings, and it gets stuck in the leg of Roxanne Perez, and they still continue the match. And after this, Jordan Grace said she's retiring wearing earrings to the ring because this is the second time it happened to her. And I gotta say, these two ladies had one hell of a match, and you need to go watch it.
Yeah, that sounds awful. It's getting someone's earring stuck in your leg. Oh my god!
I was watching the match, and I just noticed something being poked into the leg of Roxanne Perez. I'm going like, how did that happen? Because it's not a hardcore match. It's not any stipulation match. And I was going through my mind, what could it be? And then I noticed that there was a little blood on the canvas. Then you saw the shot of Jordan Grace's ear, and you go, oh, she's missing an earring. So now you 1 plus 1 makes 2 in your mind, and you're going like, dang. So, but yeah, go check this out.
I hope she has a run of some more matches. I would love to see some of the WWE ladies show up in TNA to challenge her or something. I think that could be very cool.
Well, if you watch this match, you did see Caitlin Patsley come down to grab the knockout title and try to take off with it. That led to the distraction, which led to the pop rocks from Perez to win the match. And we also saw the return of a former Dana Brooke, and Vic Joseph almost said Dana Brooke instead of Elegance by Ash, I think is her TNA name. So you got a little flub there from Vic Joseph at the end of the women's match.
Well, I saw a lot of people talking about the partnership, and some people feel it's WWE trying to sway Jordan Grace, but like I would love to see, like, there's so many talents outside of Jordan Grace in TNA that I would love to see like brought in and kind of have these cross promotions with. Even if you do like an NXT Forbidden Door pay-per-view or PLE.
Oh, hey, they did a Worlds Collide. I want to see NXT versus TNA Worlds Collide card. I think that'd be great.
Yeah, give us like there's a bunch of great tag teams in NXT. Give us somebody versus like, Bay and Ace Austin. Like, come on.
Very true. And I got a feeling we may see down the road Wrestles versus Gals, which could be a fun set of matches.
It's a lot of possibilities for that.
Okay, Ashley, let's go ahead and wrap the show up here with your number 1 match of the week. It was on my list a little bit lower, but still, it was a great match. What was it?
All right. It was Yuta and Claudio taking on FTR. And like you said, we already talked about it. We don't have to go too much into it. I do just want to say it's great to see Yuta back. He did take kind of one scary bump in this match, but he seems good afterward and everything like that. But even in the past few matches that he's been back, he looks good. It's good to see him back after almost 5 months out with some scary symptoms. And And like I said, just Dax putting on a match like that in what is clearly an unimaginable amount of pain, crazy. Claudio, outstanding every time. Just great. It's a good tag team match. I feel like FTR tag team collision matches don't miss.
FTR versus Bullet Club Go, FTR versus Wheeler Yuta and Claudio, FTR versus Danny Bryan and Claudio. No, they don't miss. They're all freaking classic matches. And oh, by the way, I know we won't have FTR around for a bit, but when they come back, I'll be ready for the next one.
Oh, absolutely. I gotta say, I see a lot of some weird anti-FTR discourse on my timeline, and I will not stand for it. They're great, and if you don't like that, I don't know what to tell you.
Exactly.
Just have to watch them be great.
It goes back to my WCW point. It's like potato. There's a lot of different styles of professional wrestling. And if you don't like FTR's style of professional wrestling, that's fine. But you're going to find a large group of fans who love their version of Southern traditional professional wrestling.
Yep. And I'm one of them.
Well, that has been our top 5 matches this week here on Radio Free Professional Wrestling. Ashlee, where can we find you on the Information Superhighway?
I'm usually on Twitter. It's at groovy_ash_. And then I should have a post up soon with other socials that I have across other medias.
We'll keep an eye out for that. You can always follow the show at www.radiofreepw.com to catch up on the past week's episodes of Radio Free Professional Wrestling. And as I mentioned, you can follow me on Twitter at RFPW Shawn and just tell me I'm wrong about my ideas in professional wrestling. No problem. I will gladly.
Or you could just be nice. Trying.
I'm trying to work with David first. I thought if I can get David to be nice to me, I can go to other people, but I'm starting with David first, and that's a long-term project. So, ladies and gentlemen, until next week on Radio Free Professional Wrestling, have a stunning week, and we'll be back here on Tuesday morning giving you top wrestling content from top wrestling podcasters, top people out.
Christina here. On behalf of the guys, thanks for listening. Like the show? Do us a favor and share it with a friend. Have a stunning question? Email it to the show at radiofreeprowrestling@gmail.com. Until next time, this has been Radio Free Pro Wrestling. Stay stunningly.